Today on the show, we come back to you at the turn of the tide. Hello there, and welcome to The Lost Cantina, the podcast that explores the stories, characters, and themes behind our favorite galaxy far, far away. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jaden.
And we are back with part 2 of episode 5. Part 1 was really long. Part
it was very
2,
long.
Part 2, probably not. This is probably going to be a really short one.
Part 2 is potentially so short, this might just be connected to the first episode, depending on how Connor edits it. So we'll see. If you're hearing if this is a part 2, if a part 2 shows up on your feed, I was wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the last one might. It's just there's so much shit.
There was so much shit in the first part. There's still good shit in this one, and we're actually gonna finish the full episode wrap up discussion in this part.
Yeah.
So if you haven't heard our take on the first part of episode 5, please stop and go watch that now. Or listen to that now.
Seriously.
Watch the episode and then listen to what we say about it.
Yeah, and if you haven't watched, of course, any of AHSOKA yet, I don't know what you're doing. Like we said in the last one, I genuinely don't understand where you're going here if you're listening to these and
we appreciate you being here. But
yeah,
you're a fool, and you're a crazy person.
You're cool and all, but you should probably
go watch it.
You should go watch it. But of course, we love to hear from our listeners, and that's all of you. So email us at thelostcantinapod@gmail.com if you have any thoughts or comments or any jokes about these two Italian boys just talking Star Wars. And then also, of course, follow us on Twitter, which we're not really using as much. Mostly Instagram and TikTok at The Lost Cantina.
If you're confused, it's because it's called X now.
We don't... I kind of just stopped using it, really. I don't see the point anymore.
I scroll a lot.
It's whatever.
Other than that. But before we dive in, if you haven't watched the first episode of AHSOKA, as well as episodes 1 through 5 on Disney+, now is the time. This is our final warning. All right, now that you've been warned, we're going to take a quick break to get our ads through, and then we'll jump into the episode. All right, we've officially warned you. We've heard our ads. Now let's dive on into it. We return to the ocean of Cetos, where AHSOKA was seen in the middle of the water. Not floating, just kind of staying close enough to the surface that she could be, seen. And she opens her eyes and sees the light of the ghost as one of the rebel pilots dives into the water to save her. Which I was wondering how she got on the ship to do that, but I will chalk that up to science, I guess. Carson tells Hera that they got her, and AHSOKA can only seem to say Anakin's name over and over again. It's now morning. We don't really know how long they've been searching for her or how long she was in the water, but we're just going to assume all night. Jason has been sitting there the entire time, just kind of waiting for them to get back, which is really irresponsible to just leave your son and Chopper sitting next to a cliff.
Well, remember, Chopper's gonna, take over.
Listen, he's got to babysit Chopper. He's got to babysit Chopper and his mountain of skulls.
Yeah.
So he sees them coming back and he smiles, and then it kind of cuts away, and AHSOKA wakes up. And she's now illuminated in the light of the planet's star, symbolizing her new life and awakening. And Kevin wrote in here in big bold letters, this is her Gandalf moment.
It is.
And I cannot disagree based on what she looks like going forward, her outfit.
They said that was the whole thing. They were mimicking Lord of the Rings here. and she was, changed. Like, how Gandalf basically, spoiler alert if you haven't ever seen anything on Lord of the Rings. So Gandalf dies, goes
They're listening to
you
this
know,
podcast. They've seen Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, like here's the thing, like he dies, he goes to the afterlife, if you will, not really an afterlife, just he goes to their essentially world between worlds or world beyond.
Yeah.
And then they send him back because they're like, nah, you gotta go back, bro. And he's like, oh, come on. And they were like, nope, you gotta go back. And that's kind of what this is. She was sent back by Anakin.
Yeah.
Because there ain't no fucking way she survived being in the water that long. Okay, the brain damage is saying Anakin over and over again. I'm sorry. No.
She was a lot more willing to go back than Gandalf was, let's be honest here.
All right, yes, but she was dead, or she was straight up she was there.
She was in peril.
So it's a great form of awakening, right? On her part, right? She's no longer shrouded in the clouds, all that stuff. Like, this is a really good metaphor kind of for this whole thing, right? Like, her guilt, all that stuff. Like, now the storm is past and now it's peaceful, right? Like, there's the sun and everything, and she's thinking clearly. It's just a great cinematic way of revealing this, right? So Hu Yang comes in and he greets her and he tells her she was out for an entire rotation. So a whole rotation of this planet, she was out. Could it have been 20 minutes? I don't know what the rotation is.
So
probably a day.
I think they use rotation as like a standard of like a day.
Yeah.
But it's like I hate it. I hate that measurement because it's like fucking planets rotate at different speeds.
Yeah. Well, is it Coruscant rotation? Like what? Like, you know what I mean?
That's
like,
the thing. We don't know, because like if it's galactic, if they have a galactic standard, it shouldn't be a rotation. It should just be a day. You should be like, all right, it was a day.
Well, he's also a droid, so he's like,
you know what?
You're out for an entire rotation.
The planet of Cetos rotates once every 2 years. You were in a coma for 2 years. The war's over. Thrawn won.
So he also tells her that Jason is the reason that she survived. And he tells her that Hera and everyone came to help her, right? Like, no matter, like, he was like, yep, they all came here for you.
Yep.
And then because he's such a little shithead, he's such a perfect little droid, he's like, it wasn't supervised and authorized, it wasn't allowed, but like, he's like, has to tell somebody. And he seems to have, like, he's happy, but he's a little tattletale.
Ahsoka then asks about Sabine, and Hu Yang says they weren't able to find her, and they were honestly hoping that she could explain where she might have been. And he also hands her like the map that's been just shattered because Balin stuck his sword in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a euphemism. He literally took his laser sword and stabbed the device and destroyed it.
Laser sword.
Back at the ruins, Ahsoka is now wearing her Gandalf robes. That's just what I'm going to call them, because they're just literally just white robes. Very similar to Luke's robes, I noticed too. Like sequel trilogy Luke's robes. Which, if that's their way they're going with like the new Jedi Order robes, I kind of like them. I think they're kind of. I think
they look fine.
She's walking through the ruins and she encounters Jason, Hera, and Chopper, and Jason actually runs over and gives Ahsoka a hug. And it's kind of fun to see this because it's like, I like he's relieved to to have helped her, but I think also like it kind of shows like, hey, he sees her as like the hero that kind of she's kind of the reason that he's around, because she was saved them many times in Rebels, so that's probably where he gets like that affinity from.
And I know, like, I wrote down about like the little Padawans and masters kind of thing, because that's what I thought it reminded me of.
Okay, yeah, I can see it. It
kind of felt like for her, like, think about it, like when she was part of the Jedi Order and all this other stuff, she was around Padawan stuff, and just that relationship dynamic of like everybody, like all the younglings being excited to see their masters or see like all these cool other Jedis pre-war, mind you.
Yeah,
she was jumped in there pretty close to the beginning of the war.
I'm wondering what we didn't really get to talk about this, but like I'm wondering what Hera's thoughts are about Jason becoming a Jedi himself. Because on the one hand, he could really help a lot of people, but on the other hand, That's how his dad died. So, like, I wonder what her internal struggle would be.
I have thoughts. I have Hu Yang thoughts.
You Hu
later.
Yang thoughts?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to get to those at another time. It's so funny too because like he clearly is very powerful in the Force because he asks her who she was fighting, and like Ahsoka kind of goes like, "What? Like, how the fuck did you know about that? Like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean?" And Hera immediately is like, she's kind of like, "Well, we don't have time for this bullshit."
Yeah, she shoos everyone to the ship, and she and Ahsoka, like, they got a chat, and so she's like, go to the ship. And of course, Jason's like, I've been to a starship. Like, I know. She's like, go take a look at the starship. And he's like, you're Hera, and you're my mom. I've seen a starship. And what's funny, though, Ahsoka goes, a Jedi starship? And then he's just like,
yeah, that set off his spider senses.
I'm gonna go.
He's like, oh, fuck, right, you're a Jedi.
Like,
excuse me.
Now, what I found really kind of important here that I didn't see a lot of people online freaking out about was she's kind of considering herself a Jedi now. She's saying, have you seen a Jedi starship? Because, like, if she's not a Jedi, she's not going to really say that's a Jedi starship, right? But, like, I don't know. I feel like
well, the ship is officially called a Jedi starship. It was an official Jedi ship, so I'm thinking that's like she's not a Jedi, but like Hu Yang, technically Hu Yang is the Jedi Order right now.
Yeah, but like she could say like, have you seen like my starship? I don't know. I just feel like for her
she knows how obsessed Jason is with Jedi. Like she can tell. It's like my dad was one.
But also like she did just technically finish her Jedi training, so there is that.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that one. I concede that point, sir.
He's all excited, and Hu Yang is like, I'll show you the training room. And he's even more excited now because he's like, training room? And he's like, will you train me? And Hu Yang just instantly goes, no. And he goes, do you know how to build a lightsaber? And he's like, yes. So like this interaction, in my opinion, is kind of important too, is because we know Jason's a Force user, right? Hu Yang even admitted that he's a Force user. Like, he knows he's a Force user. But he won't train this youngling. And I kind of think that Hu Yang is, like, almost more respectful to Hera in that instance. Because he's like, you have attachments. I would not want to step, like, over the bounds of those attachments.
Yeah.
You can't be a Jedi at the moment. Like, nope, can't happen. And that's where I mean, like, I have my Hu Yang thoughts. I agree with that because I think if Hera said yes, that's different. But I think Hu Yang knows because, like, here's the thing: we have Sabine who had attachments and all this stuff, and he still was training her.
I mean, here's the fucking thing. The Jedi not liking attachments is bullshit. If you look at Luke's attachments to his friends and family is what made him stronger. That's what made Ezra stronger. That's what made Kanan stronger.
Yep.
Attachments can be a force for good, and I'm so fucking sick of people throwing the like guys, you're using the old Jedi rhetoric. That order failed. They all died.
But to Hu Yang, that's different. Hu Yang,
he is a robot. You're right. He's a robot. But like, I'm so sick of people being like, "Oh, Jedi don't like attachments." Like, no, we've shown time and again that attachments actually make them stronger. That's why Anakin was so good at doing stuff.
Are you saying that the Sith are right?
The Sith don't even. The Sith, when the Sith with attachments, they don't care about attachments. They care about using things to make you more powerful. There's a difference there.
Their attachments are it's a path to the dark side. Oh, sorry,
I guess.
Oh man, I mean, hey, that's what Palpatine exploited about Anakin, right?
Yeah,
he exploited his attachments,
and
his other emotions, and then that kind of led to, well, we all know what that led to.
The Youngling Slayer 3000. Anyways, Hera jumps right in, gets straight to the point. And she says, "Where is Sabine?" And Ahsoka says the last time she saw her, she was holding the map, and Ahsoka then does, which I knew Kevin loved this. She then does the Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order trick of like trying to take a Force memory impression off of the item.
It's so cool, dude. They had that power in Heroes. For those who've ever watched the show Heroes, rest its many of sad souls. But there was a person who had that ability,
Wasn't that
and
show
they could
shit after like the first season?
I don't want to talk about it. Okay, it was
yeah.
my favorite TV show back in the day, and they fucking butchered it. But there's really cool power just like that, and you touch an object and you can like relive its past, which is really cool.
So she takes it and she's able to commune with the memory, and she can feel exactly what happened. We hear scenes from the last episode, and she's really emotional. She seems to feel the emotion that Sabine felt at that moment. She tells Hera that they took her, and Hera, more to the point, just goes, she's just happy that she's actually alive.
Yeah, Hera's kind of all gung ho right away. She's like, all right, let's go after them, like right away. Like it's just very Hera, And Carson comes in and he tells her that the fleet is now on its way. He's like, hey, yo,
yeah, now they send people.
Yeah, now they send in some people, and that's going to be a problem. And even Hera, she's like, oh, they're a little late. And he says, I don't think they're coming to help. And Chopper goes, uh-oh. Like, he's like, oh, you in trouble. Mom's in trouble. And Ahsoka's still obviously weak. She looks like shit. She's like, okay, I'm gonna find out a way to find Sabine. And Hera, Hera's like, I'll handle the rest of this. Like, we'll figure this out. And Ahsoka looks at Sabine's helmet, which is just sitting there on a rock. It's a really cool shot, and she's just kind of sitting there staring at it, contemplating a way to go find her.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, Ahsoka looks up, and through the clouds that are starting to part and let all this light in, she sees Purrgil, and she starts hearing them. But it's not as creepy now. Like, it was creepy before, right? Like, in the last couple episodes, Purrgil sounded really, like, hella creepy. Now they don't really sound that creepy. And that's kind of when, like, the realization hits. And you can feel it. They use the music to try to, like, get you to really feel that realization that she's having. And it's like, oh, shit! Those guys can do the thing! And,
they
like, you're like, all right. Yeah, they can do the thing, man. And so, yeah, all of a sudden, it's just like, wow, we got it.
So back on the ship, Mon Mothma is telling them that she's done all that she can. She asks if they have any evidence to back up the claim of what happened, or Thrawn. Which, I mean, Hera says no, but like, a giant fucking ship that was built with hidden Imperial money jumps away.
Don't they have dash cams?
Yeah,
like, don't they have?
Okay, I was gonna say, where's the space dash cam to tell us what the fuck happened?
Ugh.
Like, listen, 2 pilots are dead.
Aren't they technically space cops too?
Yeah.
Wouldn't they have a dash cam or at
space
least
body cams?
Yeah, like come on, that got me tiffed.
So Hera says no, and Mon Mothma was like, "Well, I guess that's it. You're gonna have to come back to Coruscant to answer for what you've done." And Hera says that she doesn't agree. And Mon Mothma says that the Grand Oversight Committee is meeting about possibly permanently suspending her, firing her.
Ooh, you in trouble.
And she says that the only way that she's going to get out of this is if Ahsoka comes and helps her. And at that moment, Ahsoka comes in and says that she knows how to follow Sabine. Which is like, hey, I can exonerate you. This person can exonerate you. But I'm leaving!
Yeah, it's like, oh no, the one person I need is leaving me.
Don't they always?
I know, right? So this Star Wars, that's what always happens.
Yep.
So all their ships take off. Now there's 3 X-Wings left. And all the ships take off and they start ascending up towards space. And Hera says she's not really sure that, like, the plan, like, she's not sure if she agrees with this. And Hu Yang goes, me too. I don't agree with this. They think she's nuts. They think Ahsoka's whacked. It's like, yeah, maybe you do have some brain damage. I don't know.
Yeah.
Man. And Ahsoka now completely dressed in all white. Like, at first she was wearing just a robe. Now she's
like a
all
robe thing. Now
white.
she's all white.
And she says that there's no other way. Without the map, we don't have the proper hyperspace coordinates. And everybody's kind of sitting there like, what the fuck's going to happen? And then they fly their ships through the clouds and they come across a large group of Purrgil. This time, they're kind of flying really peacefully, right? Like, it's different than when they ascended to the planet. It was all like a storm
kinda,
and like fucking hectic, and the Purgle were like, wow, what the fuck? Oh my god, what are these things? And like everything was all chaos. Now it's just kind of chill.
yep.
And they're flying peacefully through the sky. And Hu Yang says that there's a larger one up ahead, right? There's a larger Purgle. And Ahsoka is like, all right, that'll do. And so she leaves the cockpit and then she goes on top of the ship. And she's standing on top of the ship, and they leave, like, Hu Yang's holding the ship, like, just steady. And a larger Purgle all of a sudden just starts coming up.
It's a really cool sequence.
It's super cool. Those things are fucking huge.
She steps up and then she starts to like, she tries to commune with it. Like, it's really cool. She's like, there's this sequence. It's almost like they understand each other, which is what I love.
Yeah. It's really reminiscent of what Ezra can do with other life forms. Like, he's able to commune with other life forms really well.
And I think they talk about it in some canons, but it's like there are certain Jedi can do certain things a lot better than other Jedi. Like, I think they even said like Cal Kestis is really good at the memory thing.
Yeah.
Which like Jedi can do it, but like some people are actually like really good at it, which is why like he has entire like fucking sequences that play off in his mind.
Anakin's really good at the procreation thing too.
Yeah. What jutsu is that?
Reproductive bending.
So Carson lets Hera know that part of the fleet has arrived. And Hera says they can't interrupt what's going on.
They don't want to scare the Purgle. That's going to screw everything up.
So she says to buy them time. So Carson plays dumb and asks the fleet to identify themselves. And the really funny thing is that they don't. They're like, they hit him with like, aren't you far from home? And he's like, repeat, please identify yourself.
And they just don't identify themselves. And
they never do, which is really funny because it's like, the fuck are you doing? It was very reminiscent of Rebels because it was like, what the fuck? Like, you know who we are.
Well, like, he's playing it by the book. He's doing it the right way, right?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I thought it was sly.
Oh, I loved it. Carson's growing on me, man. I liked him before, but like sometimes you meet a character and you're like, this isn't as interesting. He just gets better every episode you see him in.
Yeah.
You know what he reminds me of? Phil Coulson from Phase 1 of the Avengers in Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Just a guy who's there, just working, doing the 9 to 5 gig. I love those guys.
Yeah.
Which is why it sucks that they canceled Rangers of the New Republic. Because he was going to be such a big part of that, apparently.
What are the ships that showed up?
So, originally I thought they were... it kills me because we talk about them in every episode and I forget to look them up. They remind me very much of the there's a torpedo frigate that you could get in Empire at War.
Yeah,
it was in the same body shape as that, but apparently it is not that. They're saying that it's a new type of ship that was designed for the New Republic.
Oh,
just happens to look like it. So
that's cool.
And I haven't been able to find a name on them yet, but I'm sure somebody's put the 10-page Wikipedia article up already. But yeah, just send me an email and tell me what they are because I would love to know the name of them. So the fleet, like, they call him out and they're like, they're like, they want to know where Hera is, and he's like, oh, that's classified information. And he's like, halt there! You need to stop your approach to the planet. He's really trying to do what he can, and it's kind of a smart way to do it because he's like, hey man, you guys haven't identified yourselves. Like, I'm just, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do here. You guys are out of line.
Yep.
They're at a standstill, and he's like, hey, no, they got to complete their mission. Hera's trying to complete the mission, and they're like, what mission are you talking about? There is no mission. He's like, I respectfully disagree. And they're like, come on, man, we're all on the same side here.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, kinda, yes. Listen, my boss is being an asshole. You're being an asshole. I'm just kind of here. I saw 2 of my guys get killed like 20 minutes ago. So like,
one rotation ago.
We don't know what that means. Time is weird. We live in space. It's a whole thing. And finally, the captain's just like, just arm the tractor beams. We're taking this guy in.
And they get aggressive, man. Like, that's the thing. Like, they kind of seem authoritarian, and it starts feeling like shit again. Like, it feels kind of empire-y, They're just like, they're not listening to him. They're not identifying themselves. They like try to do that bait and switch thing where like, we're all on the same side. Yep. Why don't you tell her? And he's like,
if you've got nothing to hide, show me your papers.
Exactly. That's what it feels like. And then they're just like, arm the tractor beam. Just get them ready. And I'm like, whoa.
To be fair, he's being a little cheeky. He was being a little cheeky that whole encounter though.
But then they do the other thing where they're just like, we're gonna threaten to remove your rank.
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, they give him like, hey, we're gonna remove your rank, and then he's like, okay, fine, I'll tell you, but you're not gonna believe me.
And that's the thing is like, I don't think there's anything wrong with him telling them, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, not at all.
Hera told what was going on, but nobody believed her. So I don't know. I just think there's nothing wrong with what he's doing right now.
No,
but back on the planet's atmosphere, right? Jason is mesmerized by the Purgle. He's like super into them. He's like asking questions about them. He's talking to Hera about it, and he's like, "Wow, these are amazing. This is what you told me stories about. This is amazing." And she's looking pretty happy. Like this whole time, like every time she's in a scene with him and she looks at him, she looks so happy. And I think that is what gets me with her is like, that's a good mom. She's just happy to see her kid, right?
Well, I think she's seeing the wonder in his eyes, which is so great because like she's a little jaded from the way the world is, you know?
Yeah. But I just think like you see the hope, right? In him.
Yeah.
Star Wars is about hope. That's what it is, and like that's him. He's the hope that she has. And speaking of hope, we switch to Ahsoka, who's standing there, now stretching her arm out to this Purgle, and in the subtitles it says "hopeful music" is playing. So yeah, there you go. So she's reaching out with the Force to commune with the big boy, and we see that we see one of its eyes just whoosh right towards her.
Yep.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of scary, but it's kind of cool. And it opens its mouth. A lot of fucking teeth. Holy shit, it made me uncomfortable.
Space whales.
So anyway, we get a good old Pinocchio kind of situation here where they're going to have to go in the mouth, right? She knocks on the window and tells Hu Yang, go inside the Purgle. And Hu Yang just yells back at her and he goes like, get inside. He's like, what are you fucking doing? Get back inside.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah. And so they fly on into the Purgle's mouth and they kind of the Purgle they start going into space. And it's really fucking cool to see all these Purgle going through space and trying to pass these ships and all that other stuff. It's really cool. They get into the Purgle's mouth and Hu Yang's like, are you certain that we're going to be able to find Sabine? Like that they know where she is? And she goes, no idea. And it's like, what? Hu Yang just turns and looks at her and he's like, what? And she says, we'll just see where it goes. And he goes, it could go anywhere. And she just doesn't care. She just says, I know. It's better than going nowhere. And it's like,
this was a really big fucking gamble. Let's be honest. This was a terrifying
huge fucking gamble. But like, here's the thing. Hu Yang is like typical Jedi bullshit, like typical fucking Jedi. And he just turns his head and just faces forward and he doesn't say a word. It's like the most quiet he's ever been. He's like, fuck.
Yeah, he's like, all right, I'm just going to be quiet because otherwise they're going to shut me off again.
So Carson now is finished, right? He's finished talking about what's going on. And they're kind of looking at him like, what? They're like, you sound a bit crazy, Carson. And then the Purgle show up and they're like, oh shit, those are space whales.
Yeah.
And so it's really fucking cool to see these whales go through the ships and they just say, okay, let them pass. Like, it's fine. Like, let the Purgle go. And Hera shows up with her ship and everybody's kind of just like now right there. And Ahsoka and Hera have like a little conversation about like, I wish I could go with you. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Like, I'll bring her back, that kind of stuff. And Hera, of course, ends it with, may the Force be with you. And so then we get a great shot of the Purgle. They open up their tentacles and show their space butts. And they use their space butts to jump into hyperspace. And you see this light hit Hu Yang and Ahsoka again.
Yep.
And they go, boof. And all the Purgle fart into hyperspace.
They fart into hyperspace.
Now that I'm like describing it, I'm like, wait a minute.
This episode is a lot of interesting imagery, to say the least.
Oh, Star Wars.
That doesn't sound better when we're just describing it.
But that's the end of the episode.
Yes.
That's the official end of episode 5. So before we get into our thoughts, we're going to take a quick break, but we will be right back.
right.
All right. We are back talking about space farts.
And all that entails.
All right, here's the deal.
Yep.
I think
Making a deal with me.
yeah. Here's the thing. I said it in the last part, and I'll say it again. Skull was right. Balin Skull was right. It's literal the Gandalf situation. Like, the destruction of that person's of that character leads to them coming back as a rebirth of something new and more powerful. Like, that's just what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was boring when I know we said we were going to talk about the parts where they were not in the World of Two Worlds. I didn't give a fuck about any of this shit. I was like, cool, great. The kid has force energy powers. That's so cool. He can hear what's going on. That's amazing. Get back to it. I want to see more Ahsoka and Anakin.
Get back to the fight as he slaps his computer.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was fine. I got it. I understood it. I thought those scenes went a little long, but yeah, I'm here for it. It's fine. The ending part was good. It was a little slow. It was like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That was all 20 minutes. Like what we described, that was like a 20-minute something in the episode. It was like a whole other half of the episode.
I'm not going to lie.
It went fast.
I'm not going to lie. It very much did feel like it was like, all right, we got the stuff we wanted to tell in this episode, but we kind of have to end it so we can get to the next part. It felt a little tacked on, in my opinion.
Well, like, they didn't want to end it where the cliffhanger is, oh, she's showing up and like they find her again, right? That's not the cliffhanger they wanted to end. They wanted to end on the cliffhanger where they leave. Because otherwise they'd have to have a whole new episode of them going through it and doing this would have been like,
it sucks. I feel like they could have tacked that on to the beginning of the next episode. I feel like, honestly.
Yeah, but it would not
have been as impactful. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, I like the wardrobe change. Like, that was cool. The symbolization with the lighting and all that stuff. That was great. That was really good. And yeah, Carson, man, give me more of him.
Yeah, he's great. 10 out of 10 for him. No notes. I think that just to like cap off what I felt for this episode, this was something that when the Clone Wars came out, we all went, hey, wouldn't it be cool if they could ever get Hayden Christensen to come back and play Anakin Skywalker again?
Yeah. And
we all said, no, that's crazy. He hates Star Wars. There's no way they'll bring it back. And then they did it, and it was 95% of everything that I wanted to get out of that. I think that they were like very, very fucking close to being perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was just a budget thing that really stopped them from going 100% because they were like, we still have more show to do.
Yeah.
If this sequence had happened at the end of Ahsoka and they could go balls to the wall all out, I think we would have had like fully rendered backgrounds and like, you know, way more clone troopers. They might have actually gotten Jango Fett, Boba Fett, Clone Troopers actor to show up instead of just doing a voice line on his fucking iPhone.
Yeah.
Come on, man, let's go. All right, that's it. All right, send me the check for $50,000.
I agree. I think you're right. The budget, I don't know how much budget this had.
I don't either, but I got to assume that they getting him back was probably not cheap, but I'm glad they did it. I think that the good and bad of this episode was that we got to see an actual good fucking live action lightsaber fight, which we have not gotten in a long fucking time. And Jesus Christ, prequel lightsaber fights are still the GOAT.
Yeah.
They are undisputedly the best.
For those who don't know, I just Googled how much was Ahsoka's budget. And granted, I will tell you, we are recording this in December. That's all I'll say. We're recording this in December of 2023, and the budget has still not been released, but they believe it was more than $100 million. Is that a lot? I don't think so.
Not for what we got, honestly. Not for what we got. Them green screen studio or those weird like bubble 3D studios that they're using now are really, really state of the art.
They're really great, but also I feel like it limits what you can do in a scene.
Move.
Yeah, it limits a lot of the movement.
I will say, though, was it Mando Season 2 when they're fighting on the planet, Mando and Boba Fett? against all those stormtroopers.
Yeah.
That looked like it was shot in someone's backyard. That looked like a really well done fan edit.
Yeah. That was cool.
It was cool, but I was just like, man, this feels kind of cheap and cheesy. Whereas I don't feel like any part of Ahsoka felt cheap or cheesy.
But overall, I think like this episode was pretty good. It gave us what we wanted. We got a little bit of extra stuff. We did end on a pretty good cliffhanger.
Yep.
And overall, like I think it was a nice little like I think the ending, like this part 2 was nice. A nice little bow wrapped on our present.
And I can't wait for us to get to talk about the next episode. I really and truly do. I think it's.
Oh, I'm pumped.
It's so good. Everything leading up to this has been so good so far. Stellar. 10 out of 10. Yeah. No complaints from me. Well, there's complaints from me because I'm a Star Wars fan. Of course there will be, but no major complaints from me.
I feel like I'm so like positive and optimistic about shit like this. I'm like, I had fun, so that's all that fucking matters to me, man.
Which is why I'm here. I'm here to be the wet blanket. Which is why catch our review of Halo Season 2 when it comes out in February, everybody.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ, while I want to fucking
that'll be on the
die.
Lore Party feed.
That'll be on the Lore Party channel, so check that out if you want to hear me want to strangle myself every day watching that crap.
For everybody who's listening on the Lore Party feed, before we end this episode, we are releasing our Lost Cantina episodes after we release them on the Lost Cantina feed. So we're releasing these on the Lost Cantina feed first, and then it's going to be a couple days until you hear this on the Lore Party feed. So go ahead and follow the Lost Cantina feed and start listening to us on that one. Like and subscribe. But yes, that's how the schedule is being going on for now, and you'll see the Republish part on the Lore Party part.
Yep. And with that, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please take a second to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us grow the show. And be sure to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at The Lost Cantina. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the other side of the galaxy.